Greetings, folks. Gerald Clark here with Seventh Planet Broadcasting, episode 19, August 24th, 2016. And this will be episode 8 for the Decoders of Truth. And tonight we got a real special for you. The title of this episode is Super Femme Archetypes, the Diva Panel, Round 1. Today I'm going to introduce you to 3 different, really super women. The first one is my wife, who doesn't get enough time to share with all of you. So I'm going to give her this opportunity, and I'm going to do her intro first, but you'll see the sequence when we do the actual show. Krista will actually be going last. Okay, so some of the key points I'm going to talk about for Krista: her biography, a little introduction. We'll talk about her artistic vegan blog and website, and also her exposure to structural integration and how that changed her life. And we'll talk about some of the issues regarding spirituality versus religion that she's faced in her path as well. So Krista is a vegan food blogger who hails originally from Washington State. She's an independent, self-published author with a passion for recipe creation, yoga, structural integration, alchemy, research, and the arts. Krista strives to encourage others to discover the wonderful benefits of a plant-based diet that have completely changed her life, including mine. Krista has authored 2 vegan cookbooks since 2013, Meatless Mainstays for Modern Man, a guide for beginners, and her latest cookbook, the Artistic Vegan Cookbook, An Alchemical Transformation, which was released in August of 2015. And it features over 150 vegan and gluten-free recipes, and is currently in the process of being translated to French, which will be available in the year 2017. Krista's recipes are featured on One Green Planet, as well as in special features like Shape Magazine and Thermi Living. With encouragement from Rex Bear at the Leak Project, Krista shared her kitchen talent live August 3rd, 2016 on camera for the first episode of the Artistic Vegan Show, now published on YouTube. Krista's extensive blog at artisticvegan.com offers hundreds of free recipes and a variety of offerings to include her private label brand of Starfire Gold and alchemical products. Krista naturally inspires her fans to try new things and coaches folks to start with 1 plant-based meal a week, and says it's easy. Everyone, irrespective of age, can enjoy a plant-based diet which has been scientifically proven to lead to greater health and well-being. Here's a picture of Krista in San Diego doing some yoga at the beach. Instead of sitting in front of the television and being a couch potato, she was always out trying to get better, and in nature was a great place to do it in San Diego. I want to show you some of the real quickly some of the questions I ran through for Krista. Asked her how she saw her food choices relating to higher energy and her spiritual path. Question 2, what is structural integration? How did it impact your understanding of the body as your temple? Question 3, you were raised as a Christian being taught that the Bible is the Word of God. How does the exposure to my work impact your belief, coupled with the work of Mauro Bolinos, for instance? Okay. And then we also threw a couple other questions at Krista that she didn't expect. I want to introduce you to Erica Vitra now. Erica's biography and introduction I'll go through just real quickly. She studied significantly yoga, martial arts in Thailand, and I view her as a spiritual warrior on this path, and she's sharing some of her lessons tonight with all of us, which I think is fantastic. She discovered her yoga path 20 years ago in her hometown of Ithaca, New York. She continued to practice throughout high school and college, falling more deeply in love with the connection it provided to her true self, which has been at the focal point of her spiritual evolution. Erica lived abroad for several years, floating from Italy to Spain, New York City, Mexico, and then finally returning to Italy, incorporating yoga into her travels and life rhythms, which led to ever-increasing joy as her yoga practice evolved to new heights. While living in Italy, Erica began teaching yoga to university theater students and continued her passion following a move to Austin, Texas. For Erica, yoga has been the truest teacher and guide as she shares with students in a variety of classes that leads them through challenging poses, encouraging them to find their own boundaries to avoid injuries. And as an instructor, Erica's empowering approach cultivates love, courage, and true strength both on and off the mat. Here are the questions we asked Erica. We asked her, how do you see your yoga and martial arts path as part of your pursuit of higher spiritual energy? Who are some of the archetypal females that prompted you to live an extraordinary life? What philosophy do you embrace for spiritual growth? How does your relationship to Zechariah fit into your evolving path? And can you similarly comment on how your life choices led to meeting Zechariah and how your missions have been shaped by your partnership? Next, fantastic archetypal woman that we brought into the discussion is Jay's wife, Monica Diaz. And Monica's got an amazing biography, and as a multifaceted woman, she has mastered health and fitness and motivation for those over the age of 40. She's got amazing strategies of balancing family, fitness, and work that have her just, I mean, at the absolute top of her game. And you ask yourself, how much better could she get? And she's also sharing Monica's minute and spiritual lessons with some of her fans and followers. Monica is a nationally acclaimed real estate sales professional who sold over $350 million in residential real estate in Southern California, working with Keller Williams and the Monica Diaz team. Monica is an award-winning figure fitness and bikini champion and co-founder of Fabulously Fit Over 40, the #1 site on the web for fit over 40 information. She's also known for Monica's Minute inspirational videos, which encourage women to become the best versions of themselves. She specializes in coaching women in anti-aging and mindset improvement, strategies in order to create a life filled with gratitude. Monica has overcome tremendous hardships, leading to breakthroughs in her life. As an empowered mother of 3, plus 2 bonus children, she has found a way to balance family, career, and health goals like only an archetypal heroine could do. Monica is terrific with clients as she has a keen ability to draw on her past experiences in relating to people from various backgrounds. Here are the questions we threw at Monica tonight, which she handled beautifully. Men are told we need to balance our female side to be complete. What does it mean for a woman to balance her male aspects? And question 2, what combination of factors, to include diet, exercise, gave you the motivation to optimize your family fitness work strategy? Number 3, what golden nuggets would you offer those that seek the successful experience you've achieved during your brief sojourn here on planet Earth? And finally, can you similarly comment on how your life choices led to meeting Jay and how your missions have been shaped by your partnership together? Welcome to the 19th episode of the 7th Planet Broadcasting. Today is Wednesday, August 24th. And I'm so excited to have 3 of some really terrific female archetypes on the show. We noticed that several of the people on the Decoders of Truth and our Facebook page were female. So we wanted to start including some of the members. And I'll just tell you right now, Monica Diaz is Jay's wife. And she's going to be up first to bat. And then Erica Vitra is going to be coming up second. And we met her through Zechariah Lang and online through Yoga Connections with Krista. And then we'll bring Krista up last and let her talk and share with you some of the crazy things that happens in her life having to live with me. So, so to get started with, I wanted to go right to Monica and dive in kind of deep.
Awesome.
Each of you are going to have somewhat similar questions, but they'll be slightly different based on your bios. So, and then I think Jay's going to have a really terrific opportunity to bring in some questions live on Facebook at the end so that we can maybe pose some of these questions to you gals, okay? All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the first question's for Monica. And as men, we're told we need to balance our female side to be complete. You know, the yin yang and anima animus from Carl Jung. Well, what does it mean, Monica, for a woman to balance her male aspect? What does that mean to you? And can you share with us how you do that?
Wow, we're going to go deep in thought, aren't we? So the way I would interpret that, as far as tapping into my masculine side, is it's just about being in a place like not being so emotional. You know, there's times where we've got to step out of ourselves, you know, especially being a mom, a wife, doing all these things day in and day out. If I allow my feminine energy to completely rule me, then I'm not allowed to think clearly all the time. I wouldn't say I'm not allowed. I just wouldn't allow myself to think clearly. There's so many times that I've got to make a choice, make a decision, and it's not for myself, it's for my client. I've got to be professional. And if I'm feminine, and when I think of feminine energy, I think of like freedom and like, you know, just woo. And when I think of masculine energy, I think of direct, non-emotional. And as women, it's important for us to know the differences, because if we're continually reacting and being emotional, then we're not looking completely sane, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Do you see? Do you see there? Do you see it as being any kind of segregation between right brain and left brain in terms of masculine and feminine? Do you delineate that way, or what do you think?
Oh God, that's so not me. I do not think right. Talk to Jay about right brain, left brain. I predominantly think in feeling. When I feel a certain way, that's how I'll go. So many times I have to step outside of that and go, okay, let's think about this. Okay, observe. What does this mean? So I've got to go in my head and think about the situation or what's happening. And I think that's more of a masculine approach, because many times as women, like even when I was brought up with my mom, something happens, you react. Why are they being like this? Oh, you know, and so you start kind of putting on this like stressful factor, and it's not about that. And I think when you can tap into your masculine energy, you're looking, okay, well, let me go ahead and take a step back. What's the proper way to react to this? What's the solution here? That's how I see it. That's my envisioning of it.
So you see it more as applying a logic or the left side is what we generally affiliate with that masculine type of approach. And actually, listen, a lot of men are very emotionally reactive, and they don't do that. Okay. Right. But I think that is a very good way to balance female energy, especially if you're leaning more toward an emotional connection, like you said, with your intuition. And by the way, there's nothing truer than intuition. Okay.
Right. Oh my God, I cannot even tell you.
All this stuff's going on in your head, all your thoughts. It pales in comparison to the reality of knowing that what you feel in your gut and your instinct is always right. And how many times have you ignored it and found out that was not a good plan? Yeah. Okay.
Too many times.
Yeah.
Too many times.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I think that's let's move on to the next one for you, and we'll knock these out. And if Erica or Krista, you want to come in and say anything that would add to that without taking away from your own story, feel free to. Okay. So we can interact here a little bit, so we can hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you divas, you.
Yeah. Anybody have anything to say about what do you think about this balancing left and right?
Yeah, I would love to hear their insight on that, because
go ahead.
That's the way I perceive it, and I'm interested to see other people's viewpoints, because when I think masculine, I think like leader, like, and I'm not putting down the feminine energy, because I think the feminine energy definitely has a role. I just think it's a more emotional role versus, like you said, a logical role.
Okay. Erica, you got anything to add to that? Krista, what do you say? Oh, Erica's in. Okay, she's going to chime in. What about you? How do you deal with this issue, or what are your thoughts?
I think recently I read something talking about the differences between masculine and feminine energy, and I really identified with it. And that was around the idea of multitasking. Because I recently, within the past year or so, learned that multitasking for me is not really possible. So for years during my previous jobs, careers, lives, everything, I thought I could do a million things at once. And I realize now that that's not realistic. And so I read this thing, and I can't remember where I read it, but I read this thing about how multitasking is sort of, in a way, an expression of feminine energy, where it's like doing a million things at once and sort of expanding, right? Or sort of compressing, right? Taking a million, like sort of a lot of stimuli, a lot of things, and making them into something that you can work with or you can handle at the same time. Whereas the masculine energy can more be seen as like expansion, right? So you start with a single focal point, and then you just, maybe you have a more direct line, maybe you're more, there's only one thing in front of your face that you're dealing with at a time. And I kind of looked at that and put it into the context of, my own day-to-day activities in my own life, and me trying to do a million things at once and not really doing a very good job at any of them, and realized, okay, I can only really do one thing at a time well. And so I sort of, I guess I felt like I was channeling this sort of masculine energy where it was just very direct and very focused, and really breaking things down into like very small components and not trying to be everywhere at once. So I don't know, that's what I was thinking when you were talking, Monica.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah, I actually find I'm a terrible multitasker. When I was younger, I was probably better at it than I am now, but I don't know, it's kind of like being in the now. Whatever you're working on now, that's what you're all about. And then for me, everything else takes a back seat. And it's almost like blinders in a way. And in some way it's healthy, and I think in other ways, I would like to be a better multitasker, because I really don't do multiple things at once well. And I often have been around women who really naturally do that well. So, Krista, you got anything to say on multitasking?
Well, I actually used to think I was better at multitasking, and since then, it's definitely not as good. I noticed if I tried doing too many things at once, when I did the cooking show with Rex recently, trying to cook and talk, I found that even that was hard, and I can't even imagine how people play the guitar and sing. That seems really difficult. And then also, I just noticed from a guy's standpoint, if I write an email, sometimes I'll give one point and it's a really long paragraph, whereas the guys are a lot more direct and to the point. And so sometimes if I'm communicating with a guy, I'll notice that I have 3 paragraphs.
Honey, we're not hearing you.
She froze.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
She was a statue. She was a Greek goddess statue for a little while.
Well, we're back now, so we'll come back to you, Krista. Let's go back to question number 2.
Okay.
Monica, then we'll come back. Okay. So number 2, what combination of factors, to include diet and exercise, gave you the motivation, Monica, to optimize this family, fitness, and work thing that you do? I mean, this is like crazy energy for someone who's not 18 anymore, okay? Yeah, even though you look 20, okay?
Okay, you got 5 points on that one, Joe.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? If you were to compare your body with the average body of anybody, even at 18 to 25, they wouldn't hold a candlelight to you. So, what you're doing is working, and I think, so what are the factors? Diet, exercise, good thinking?
Yeah, so I'll go back in time just a little bit to kind of give you an idea of where it all evolved from. And when I was younger, so I was always very awkward. I never really had, like Jay always laughs at me because he says, "You're such a dork." I'm just clumsy. I'm a natural klutz. And I wanted to be, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be really good in sports. And I always wanted to be like, yes, I can do that. I want to be a gymnast. I want to do this. I had never made anything. I never was in any sports. I never made the cut. So when I was at an age where I could train and I could do things on my own, I wanted to do that because I wanted to learn how to be in the best physical state possible. And then also too, because I'm from a Mexican family, like many of my family members would say, when you have kids, it's over. Your body's Well, your body is done. Your body deteriorates. You have all these lonjas. You have all this lonjas is love handles, and you have like this excess, thigh meat here. And so, I started looking at things and going, well, is it really true? Does that really have to be that way for me? And so I started weight training when I was 17, and I didn't know what I was doing. If you ask Jay, like I was basically retarded, and I just followed people at the gyms, and I would do what I could do. And I was decent, but I always knew in my mind, I thought, I want to learn how to be the best possible me I could be. And, I was very insecure growing up. I was very insecure as a young adult. And I started having kids very, very young. I was committed to learning how to eat. I mean, at one time, I ate very little meat, focused a lot on vegetables and fruits. And my training regimen, everything was just about eating healthy, being healthy, working out. And I was very focused on that. And I never, ever, ever looked at excuses. So when I had all three of my kids, I remember, I'll give you a little example. I had all three of my kids. And at that time, my first husband would work early in the morning. And I didn't want to work until late and then go to the gym at night. So I started thinking to myself, like, what could I do so I could train and I could have time to go and do what I want to do? And I remember having a discussion with a girl that I had a Mommy and Me class that I took Thursday mornings. And I was like, God, I really would like to find someone who could come and clean my house like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4:30 in the morning. Then when she comes, I could go to the gym, work out. When I get back, I could wake the kids up and then get them ready for school. That was like a solution. And I put the intention out there. I kid you not, within a week, I found somebody. I had this woman who came to my home at 4:30 in the morning. It was so funny because half the time it was just to have a body there because she couldn't really clean because the kids are sleeping. But I was always thinking, what's the solution? How can I do this rather than the reasons why I couldn't do it? Because if I wanted to, I could find plenty of reasons why I couldn't do it.
Right.
And the good news was that when Jay and I met, I actually learned proper technique. I learned, a lot of proper diet requirements for me. And it's just evolved into this great adventure, really. And so now, like with Jay and I partnering up, it's exciting. I mean, I love training. I love doing all the things that we do. And we don't even train that much. We only train 4 days a week, and we do cardio. And it's so simple. It honestly is so simple to do what we do, having kids. Because, we have, between both him and I, we have 5 kids. I work full-time. Jay works full-time. And there's a lot on our plate. And some days we just want to go, ugh.
Oh, and you're also putting out your Monica's Minute on YouTube. So I've watched a few of those. So you're kind of doing almost like a life coach, encouraging role, like a Anthony Robbins in a way for women. So you probably have a couple of golden nuggets for family, fitness, and the nutrition that you've discovered. Maybe you could share a couple of those in those different categories. How do you do 3 kids and still have the energy to work out? And when you're working out, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to tone and just achieve optimal fitness for you, or are you actually looking to compete? Where do you see yourself going with that? And,
good question.
And then in terms of your relationship with Jay, we'll get to, is maybe you can talk about how your partnership has shaped what you're doing now versus what you were doing when you guys met. Is your mission got more complex? Is it going in a direction that you're excited about? Tell us about that.
Okay, so you might have to remind me because that was a very lengthy question.
I hit you. Okay. So give me some golden nuggets for these 3 pillars of your life.
Okay, cool. So family, I would say, I've never thought of my kids as an excuse. My kids are the reason why I want to be in shape. I want to inspire them. I want to when I'm 60, I want to have enough energy to go kick the soccer ball around with them and my grandkids. I want to be in the best possible shape for them and for me. Because I think in doing so, then my kids can see, like, wait a second. I can actually be 60 years old, running around, having a good time. Like, I love to dance. And I'm probably the oldest one always dancing. And I'm not the best dancer, but I love to dance. And my kids and I will, like, the girls will sit in the living room and we'll do like these dances. And now they have this funny thing. They're like, oh, that's the Monica dance. No, we don't want to dance like the Monica dance. So I just like to make things fun and light because I want my kids to see that life doesn't have to be taken so seriously. Like, you can have fun working out. You could have fun evolving. You could have fun doing all these things and expressing yourself fully and also being an inspiration to others. Mm-hmm. So there's there's many things involved with the family. Like I'm enjoying my daughter. She just started high school. My oldest is going to be 21 almost. And then my middle is going to be 18. And then we have 6 and 8-year-old. And it's just fun to see the different stages that they're in and to be an example for them as far as, you know, what we can do. And then as far as physical, I'm not looking at competing anytime soon unless Jay and I decide we want to do that. It's an interesting dynamic, you know, competing, because you go up on stage and you have these people judge you, and you could be off, you could train and do all these things up until showtime, and you could, like girls, you know, we start our period and we're holding water. Well, there goes your whole, whatever, 6 months on training and getting ready for your show. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's just about a daily being. Like, who am I being? How can I project the best physical, spiritual, like all-encompassing me?
Yeah. So that's what I see from you and Jay is you and he haven't really defined what that optimization could lead to. So as long as you're being the best you can be, it's going to take you wherever it takes you, right?
Right. And honestly, it doesn't really have to be anything. It doesn't have to be like we're going to compete. It doesn't. For us, it's like, and this is one thing that I've always found interesting. I have friends, family. Oh my God, I have a wedding in 2 months. I got to get in shape for. It's like, why be in shape for a wedding? Why not be in shape for life? Mm-hmm. Why not? Mm-hmm. Why not physically, emotionally? Why not like just dance through life and enjoy this body, the skin suit that we have? Why not fully enjoy it? The best way to fully enjoy it is to completely optimize yourself, your body, and move and glide and have fun. I mean, geez, this life is too short. Why not as well enjoy it to the greatest extent possible?
Right. So tell me, this is your last cue. Tell me about these life choices that led to meeting Jay, and how your missions have been shaped jointly and individually as a result of that. Because I know what happened to our path. Yeah.
So can I give you like a little background, like on how we met and everything?
Let's not go too far. We're going to do some more shows. So because we're gonna, you know, he's got to be able to defend himself too.
No. This is actually really cool stuff.
Give us like 3 more minutes on this one, and then let's get these other girls in. Okay.
So actually, Jay and I, we connected, and I'm telling you, like the connection that we felt even when we first met, like I knew without a doubt that what we have is like so expansive that words cannot even define it. It's just like this, and I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say it because it's like I've had to describe it. And all I can tell you is like what I feel like in my heart. Like when I feel and we embrace and I feel a heart-to-heart connection, it's like such an awesome, like just pump.
Do you feel that your energy together is better than it is apart?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so would you call him your twin flame soulmate?
Yeah, he started. You must have brought that up to him because he keeps calling me his twin flame, and I'm like, oh, I like that. I like twin.
Chris and I did a show on that on Universal Soul Love, where we talked about kind of the science of twin flames and how it was related to the Anunnaki in a way. So,
cool.
So, yeah, but people recognize other people that are twin flames. You know that, right? They see 2 people together that are on the same frequency, animating the same way. And actually, I'm going to tell you right now, Erica and Zechariah are twin flames too. That's why I chose all of you, because I knew that you were twin flames with us. Okay. Anyway, so what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet. So.
All right. So how has your mission changed? Well, tell me a little bit more about your mission change.
You know, what's really cool is now that Jay and I are together, I'm excited to fully express more of my own power. When him and I weren't together, there was this hesitancy, and it was interesting because I actually had one gal tell me, she said, Monica, because we were in this mastermind group together, and she's like, Monica, I see you expanding more when you're with your mate. And I'm like thinking like, well, what does that mean? And it was because I had a hard time moving forward based like on my own. I felt like I wanted this masculine. I had been with a man for so long that I had to lead that I didn't understand what it was like to be a feminine woman. I only knew what it was like to be a masculine woman because that's the role that I took on. And so now when I was single, I'm like finding myself and exploring and figuring things out. And then when Jay and I met and I felt that connection, it was so like invigorating is the word I could think of, invigorating, that now I'm so excited to express who I am. I'm excited to share with my journey, to inspire others. And it's just a different dynamic, a completely different dynamic.
It completes you, I can tell.
Yeah, it's fun. It's
well,
exciting.
Being in the right relationship with a man like that is strong of a archetype that Jay is.
Mm-hmm.
How could it not make you more assertive in doing what you're doing? And that's usually a figure of merit that they would use to check out kids that are with fathers, okay? Little boys especially. Are they comfortable enough to assert themselves because they're getting what they need? And you know, if you're in a twin flame relationship, then you're certainly getting energetic coupling that you need to be more than you can be by yourself. So
And then just real quick on another addition to that would be, when him and I got together, I also realized the importance of a strong father in the life of the children, because seeing the way he fathered versus my ex, and seeing how strong he is and how like he really focused on discipline with the girls, like, look, no, it's, you know, this is how you're going to do it. And just seeing how they would act being guided rather than just, you know, like you're not even paying attention to them type of thing. It was a completely different dynamic. And my eyes were opened, and I'm thinking, wow, how important it is for strong fathers to be around their kids. That's so important. There's so many people right now that don't have that in their life.
I totally agree with you. Well, let's bring Erica on board here and start with her questioning. Erica, you first met us through Krista, is that right? Because I originally encountered Zechariah on my Facebook page, and we've been talking back and forth for at least a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. So he's been with me quite some time. When did you find out about this crazy group that he was following? And then I'm gonna start going down and cover some of the stuff that we want to cover. So how did you find out about us?
Through Zechariah. I mean, we live together, so I see a lot of what he watches, and a lot of the discussions that he has online with people like you and people that follow you. And I think I discovered Krista on Instagram, actually. So he mentioned that, you know, Gerald Clark's wife was a vegan chef, and I'm vegan, and I'm into yoga and all that stuff. And so I started like snooping around on Krista's Instagram and and was like, oh, she's got some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. So I and then just a little bit that I saw on Facebook and social media and YouTube and stuff like that, I got a similar feeling about the two of you that I have with the two of us. And so it felt, I guess kind of a connection.
Yeah. So how do you see your yoga and martial arts as part of your higher spiritual pursuit? And how does that coincide well with Zechariah, with his life path?
Yeah, well, it would have to, yeah.
Well, there's a connection there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay.
What is yoga and martial arts, or with your practice, how does that equate to a spiritual path for you? Because I think you're on a very hardcore spiritual path, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I feel that. So I first discovered yoga when I was 15. I was in high school, and I just stumbled into a yoga class by accident at like my local YMCA. And I wasn't even like a gym person in high school, so I don't know how I ended up there. But regardless, I kind of fell into it, and then it started to work its magic on me, and I started to develop a regular practice, which I kept.
I want to be specific. I'm going to do your intro, and I'm going to give all your bio and everything, but I want you to be specific about this magic that it worked on you. What happened in high school to make you want to go down this path?
Well,
did you feel something?
Yeah. So I remember the very first yoga class I went to. I had no idea what was happening. Honestly, I don't remember how I got there, but I had no like knowledge. I didn't know what to expect, and I just kind of walked in and took this class, and it was relaxing. And I was a 15-year-old like rebellious, like angsty teenager, so it felt really nice. And I had a lot of.
Did you like to fight then?
Say it again.
Did you like to fight then?
Did I want? No.
Fight when you were 15?
No, I didn't like to fight. I just,
Okay.
yeah, no, I just didn't, whatever. I wasn't a very good student when I was 15. But yeah, I was just, your typical rebellious teenager. And something about yoga just felt good. It felt relaxing, and it felt like I could, I guess, be myself. And like I was allowed to tune in without feeling like someone was telling me like, this isn't good behavior or something like that. I felt validated basically. And then it became a little bit more about the physical practice. I started learning the postures and taking different, mostly vinyasa classes. And I liked the physical feeling. And then this thing happened, which I've heard a lot of my students describe, where you get to a certain point in your physical practice where you all of a sudden kind of unexpectedly you're in a class or you're in a practice, and then you just have this moment where something shifts, and you get this sort of opening in your, I don't know, in your brain or in your heart or somewhere in your body. And then all of a sudden you start to think like, oh, there's another layer to this. And it's hard to describe, I guess, because it's different for everybody. But the first time that happened, that was when I like kind of, I guess you could say, got addicted. And then it just started happening more and more. And then of course I started going towards it more and more, kept practicing throughout college and after college, and just everywhere I went, it became kind of a hobby to like, because I travel a lot. And so I would always look for the yoga studios and connect with the yoga teachers. And
Well, not to interrupt you, but in retrospect, if you were to look back at your life now, that feeling that you had of some paradigm shift, maybe in your energy or your perception, do you now see that as potentially equated to chakras opening sequentially one at a time? And that maybe that was a Kundalini experience that you had early on?
Yeah, well, I think most of those experiences can be traced or at least related in some way back to different chakra openings. I've had a lot of, I guess, as I've learned more about the chakra system and energies associated with each chakra, I've had, it's led me to a lot of sort of eye-opening moments, whether it's like during a practice or afterward or something like that. But the more I learn about it, the more I can connect, different physical sensations with energetic sensations, and then I can kind of intellectualize them. I try not to go too far with the intellectual stuff, but
well, we must have missed the part of talking about you being vegan. Where along that path did you become vegan? Then I'm going to move you along on your questions that I'd already discussed with you, not new ones. Okay, but when
sure,
did
yeah. Feel free to vegan? Okay, yeah. Feel free to speed me up anytime, because I can talk forever about this stuff. But
yeah.
So my parents were both vegetarian, and they raised, I have one brother, they raised us both eating like really small amounts of meat, just mostly chicken and fish. And even that, not very much. So I never cared much about meat, I guess. And then when I was, I want to say 7th or 8th grade, something like that, I went to an alternative school and I took a class in animal rights, which was really cool. Yeah, and it was traumatizing. So, you watch all the slaughterhouse videos and you learn about all the sort of media and just horrible things. So I went vegetarian and stayed that way until I think college. And then I started eating meat again in college for about 5-6 years. And then I dropped it again because I realized I just didn't, it wasn't something that I wanted for a lot of reasons. So I stayed vegetarian for a while, and then my brother went full vegan. And I talked to him, and he's very like nutrition oriented, very healthy, very like holistically minded. And so just having conversations with him about like being vegan, I decided, what the hell, give it a shot. And I love it. I really love it.
How long ago was that?
Vegan was in 2011. So 5 years, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your assessment real quick on that? I know that wasn't one of your questions, but better energy or worse energy?
I love it. I get asked this a lot about, you're a yoga teacher and why don't you eat meat and where do you get your protein? Because you go to the gym and you work out and all that stuff. I do not miss it at all. I don't even, it's such a non-issue for me. I have no desire or attachment to like any sort of meat. Cheese is hard to find in vegan form that, I'm sure Kristen knows this. It's hard to replicate like the real cheese. Other than that,
wow.
I'm happy. I feel obviously I feel, like physically satisfied. I feel like I'm getting enough of everything. I think there's more protein in food than people realize. Like you don't have to eat a protein source to
Right.
get your.
Yeah, actually, one of the books that came to my mind when I was listening to Monica when she was talking about this masculine, feminine, not to change subjects too drastically, was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. So I wanted to throw that one out there that I think all women and all men should read that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me about some women, some archetypal women that motivated you to do what you did. And actually, I never heard whether your parents, what their religion was that allowed a high school student to be playing around with yoga like this. So maybe drop a dime on that. How were they liberal? Were they into yoga themselves? Because it sounds like it affected your brother the same way.
Yeah. So I'll preface this by saying I've always considered myself an extremely lucky person because my parents are incredible. And I come from a really wonderful, wonderful family. We're all really close. It's the four of us. Both of my parents were raised in households where there was some element of Christianity, but no one was strict about it. So when they met, my dad was a hippie, like musician, college dropout type guy. My mom was a hippie hitchhiking teenager at the time. You know what I mean? So they were vegetarian, and they just kind of threw away the whole church thing. Neither of them had cared much about it before. And when my brother and I were born, they decided that they wanted to raise us on the principles of like love and respect and communication. So what that looked like in practice was, and this is so funny, I tell this story to a lot of people. Every Sunday morning, my parents would drag us out of bed and make us go hiking. And like I said, I grew up in upstate New York, so it's a good place to do that kind of thing. And we hated it when we were little because we wanted to stay home and watch cartoons, but my dad always said, like, if you want to be closer to God or whatever your idea of God is, go outside. You don't need a building.
Well, that couples really well with this third issue I wanted to bring up for you. Is this spiritual path that you're pursuing and this idea of God. And so how does this philosophy about energy equate to God for you? Because it sounds like you've honored the energy and paid attention to what you felt inside, and it's led you most of your life from what you've told me and what I've read in your bio. So tell me about energy and God. How does that fit into your philosophy?
I guess you could say it's the basis of my philosophy. And I'm thinking back to the first moment where I realized this. Again, I want to say I'm lucky for not having been raised there was nothing hammered into my head when I was little, so I feel like I was raised with a pretty clean slate, just respect for nature, basically, and for other people around me. So the first moment that I had when I really connected, I guess, I had already started doing yoga. I was in high school. It was probably the same year that I started doing yoga, mid high school, 15, 16. And I was camping with my friends, and I was outside at night, and I took a walk by myself, and I sat down. I don't know why I did this. I sat down in the middle of a field in the dark, and all of a sudden I felt this, like the wind picked up, and I felt this shift, and I looked up at the stars, and I saw the grass waving in the wind, and I looked up at the stars, and I thought, something hit me, and I thought, oh my God, this is God. And it was such a, I know this is getting kind of like, ooh, but this is what happened. And I just had this moment of total awe where I realized I felt like I had been looking at a curtain that was drawn, and then someone just came and opened it, and I saw the whole map of, I don't even know what, everything. I don't know, but I connected all the dots. You know what I mean? There was that moment of like absolute clarity where you feel like you see exactly where you fit in the whole thing. And so that night, that moment, I think I had a conversation out loud with myself. So I'm glad I was alone, but it was a really special moment. And then from then on, I stuck with that feeling, and it just got stronger, I guess. I don't know if that's answering your question, but
I noticed that as I started going through something similar to you, is that when I started feeling this interconnectedness with energy and started asking myself questions about physics, knowing that whatever energy is,
Hmm.
it's infinite because it's neither created or destroyed, right? This is the physics standpoint. So whatever that energy is that's animating me is God.
Right.
So, so seeing that kingdom of this energy and where it lands inside you and making that physical and going, oh, that's where the finite meets the infinite. It's in me, right? So, and I
It's,
think yoga brings that out in people. They don't really put it in those words, but that's what happens.
yeah, I think so. And the more, like I said, the longer you do it, the more you do it, as long as you are open in some way, it's going to get in there.
Right.
And the connection will deepen.
Right.
And then you start to realize that there is no barrier between your energy and the rest of it all out there.
Right. I want to let the other ladies chime in on this one. I think this is a really
Sure, yeah.
important point. I know I probably triggered some religious boundaries by saying what I said, so I want to get Monica, your comments on this energy and how it relates to your spiritual path and God. How do you see that connected? And then, Krista, I want you to chime in too.
Energy and God. I honestly know, and I think what I've realized too, it's like so many times when I attempt to define it, it like loses its value or its power. So like sometimes I won't even say God, it's like a universal force. It's like the creator. There's so much to it. And I felt it like there's so many times that I have felt presence and I felt the energy. And honestly, I can feel it. Like I'll give you an example. When my mom passed, I actually felt her energy when she left her body. And I felt that she was no longer in her body. And knowing that, and yet she was still connected to the machines and just like sensing where it's crazy. And then just knowing that she was in this place of just beauty and peace, and that she was like in with more than what we could even understand here. So it's just like, it's so crazy. Like when I think about those times, and I think about even moments that, when I was in meditation or in nature, or when I had my children and I held them for the first time, and knowing that feeling, that energy of God within, it's just magnificent. That's all I can describe it.
Krista, what are your thoughts on your energy, this feeling that you have, and your mic's on mute too, by the way, and this relationship to the creator of all? How would you comment on that? Because you do yoga as well.
Yeah. Well, as for my upbringing, I was definitely raised Christian and more on that side of the fence. But since then, when I was introduced to yoga, I experienced that energy shift. And like you said, it's going to creep in from the east. It's going to come, and you're going to feel that energy. And so I would call it more source, like Monica said, or like source energy, or the creator of all. Or I try to think of it as just an infinite energy that being can tap into. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we do a lot of yoga and a lot of breathing exercises. Gerald was kind of fortunate as a young boy. He had out-of-body experiences on demand, and I've never had one, but he introduced me to a breathing exercise where you could breathe in for 7, breathe out for 7 for a count of 5, and on the last one, hold it. He mentioned it in his last show in good direction. But with that, you can feel your energy outside of your body in a way, and it taps you into that higher power of, that we're all connected as one, and, it's not just me and my body and you and your body, but, we're all flowing together, and we're all life source energy, and allowing that energy to kind of flow through you.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get this last question for Erica. So you talked about experiencing this energy alone, right, and feeling a oneness with the universe through your path. Well, how about comment on how your life choices led to meeting Zechariah, and how your mission has been shaped, and how this joint energy, this twin flame energy, is working out. How's it affecting your mission? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? What's going on?
It's defining my mission, honestly. before I met him, I had lived enough and gone through enough crap and experimented enough to know where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and what where my energy was, and where I wanted it to go. So, I was doing well. And then we met at a gym, through martial arts. And I was getting ready to leave for Thailand to go train there. And at the time, I think we just became friends. But then months later, we connected, and it's been really amazing ever since then. I remember, so this is going to be like very lovey-dovey, but I remember the first time that we really looked into each other's eyes, and I had never felt like this before. I had this really strong sensation of looking into his eyes and seeing exactly myself looking back, and it blew me away, and it was a mutual thing. And that was the first time, that was my clue. That was the first time I was like, oh my God, something's happening. So, yeah, it's like emotional to even talk about, but yeah, I from there, and this was early on in our relationship. Our energy was similar. Not only did we have way more in common than anybody that I've ever met. I mean, like, scary amount in common. I had this feeling, and I have this feeling that when I'm with him, when our energies are connected, I feel like I feel bigger and I feel brighter, and I feel like he's bigger and brighter. So it's almost like, I know it's the cliche sort of twin flame thing to say. And I had never even said the words twin flame before this, but it just kind of, it comes out, as you sort of experience each other. And so I felt like, and he's a Gemini too, I'm a Gemini. And we both identify pretty strongly with our astrological influences. I've been into astrology for a long time, so I take it pretty seriously. But the Gemini, the whole idea of the Gemini, the twins, uniting the lower self with the higher self. I felt like my lower self and my higher self came together because of being with him. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I talked about this from the standpoint of, imagine all your chakras are working and they're being merged together into one cumulative frequency that represents you, okay? And then you take another being like Zechariah, and a man and a woman's energy fields are slightly different, and I think they're designed to be brought together to create a larger amplitude signal and brighter energy together than you're designed to be by yourself. And Krista and I experience this as well. So I think when you find somebody that's on your same frequency, which means their chakras are in a similar state, they're on a similar spiritual path, it's like, and there's no judgment. It's like meeting somebody and you see yourself through the community the way that you really are, and the fact that he brings out even more of this in you. That's what everybody wants. They want somebody that's going to take them higher, right? And
yeah, and to be honest with you, I've never felt that before, and I never knew how strong it could be, because you don't know until it happens, right? You think
it's a twin flame phenomenon kind of thing.
It's incredible, and when I say, looking into each other's eyes and seeing the same person in so many ways, but the same source energy. I feel like our makeup is the same. And so it's a really incredible union, I guess. It feels, one of the first things we said to each other was, oh my God, I feel like I knew you thousands of years ago, God knows where, but it's really powerful. So yeah, so it's helping my mission. We're making each other brighter and bigger and happier.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go. Anybody have anything to say about what the other women have said so far? If not, I'm gonna jump off to Krista and let her start talking about what's going on in her path. Krista, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right, and I'll probably turn my mic off as soon as I start once I ask you the question. Okay. So, I know your story extremely well. Like it just happened yesterday. But I want you to talk a little bit about how you see food choices relating to higher energy in your spiritual path, and know that I'm going to do an introduction on each of you and give all your backgrounds. So I want to just to see, I remember, but I want to hear it from you, if you can recall how your food choices related to higher energy in your spiritual path, even when you went to this very first raw class in San Diego. So start from there.
Well, when I went to the raw food class, I was pretty overweight, enjoying all the fine dining of San Diego, and had put on quite a bit of weight. And I saw some hippies out with their van growing some wheatgrass, and I thought, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, but I'll go in and see what it's like. It was at the World Beat Center. And so I went to the first thing, and it was Dr. Brian Clemente, I believe, of the Raw Food Institute in Florida. And he mentioned just trying a meatless meal once a week. So I started doing that, and that led to more of a full-time thing, primarily just because for the first time I noticed how good I felt, and all these digestion issues started going away, my energy was brighter, and I was ready for a lifestyle change. And instead of just bad dieting, I had done Weight Watchers and the Atkins diet and a number of other things in the past where I had gotten thin and gotten big and gotten thin, and each time it seemed like as I got older, it would get worse. And so then I thought, I really need to make a lifestyle change. I had a coworker, she was in her early 50s, and she looked freaking awesome every year, every Christmas, every January, every February. It didn't matter what time of the year. Her name's Alice. And she was a Latin woman, and she looked great. And she was really a key motivator. And she just said, allow yourself, what you like, but within moderation. And so I started kind of viewing food more as, a way to feel good, and in general, when you're just not eating, the American diet or processed foods, you're gonna feel better, whether you're vegan or not, eating more fruits and vegetables, and more natural plant source, and moving to more organic foods. And in combination with that, as others have mentioned, eating a dead animal or something, you're gonna take on the energy of that suffering in that animal. And so by not eating that, you're giving a lot of that up. And I've heard pigs scream, so I don't really. I feel better without that in my body, though. I certainly enjoyed it for many years.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to chime in real quick. I have to shut my video down to give the bandwidth to Krista because we're sharing it from the same house. So if you're wondering why I did that, but I know Krista has been reading a book from a couple of doctors. I think it's called the China Study. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit while you're talking about food choices and higher energy, and then I'm going to move on and ask you about some other stuff. After you did the food thing initially, we started trading, so I'm going to take you into that here in just a second, okay? So talk about this China study and how it relates to some of the food choices you're making now as well.
So a lot of people have seen the movie Forks Over Knives. If not, I really recommend it. I think it's free online, and the doctors behind it, they wrote this book, The China Study, and I still need to get through it. I'm only just in the first portion of it, but it is really good. And it just basically, they did a study going around China, looking at the different diets and how the American diet influenced these different cultures. And they looked at the ancient cultures and where they were eating more less amount of meat and more vegetables and rice. And then they even looked at cultures that consume more oil, and they just looked at all these different eating choices and the heart disease and the mortality. And they found that diet has a direct link with disease, and by making a plant-based lifestyle, that you can actually reverse these diseases. And it was great because they're doctors, so it's scientifically backed up with years of research, and they worked with other numerous doctors, so it's scientifically sound, and they do a lot of videos and offer our recipes now, and meal plans and all different kinds of things for transitioning to that lifestyle. And they show just the improved health, feeling younger. They're kind of older, and show how great they look and how everything's still functioning without needs of pharma pills or anything like that. And so it's empowering, and it's a good book showing kind of where science meets more than just feeling, because I kind of go on a more feeling based on how great it's made me feel. Perfect.
So I know that when we got together right after you started making these wonderful vegan smells come out of your unit, Krista lived 2 doors down from me at this apartment where we lived. And as part of the kind of getting to know each other, I decided to offer something that I had that I could trade her. And that I had been trained as a structural integrator, and I'd been doing that practice for probably 8 or 10 years by that point. And I thought, you know, wouldn't that be wonderful to share that with her if she shared some of the vegan cooking with me? So that's how we started. So talk about that, Krista, and what happened with your 10 series.
Okay. Well, I had seen him outside stretching and doing yoga, and I was into yoga. And at the time, I was trying to trim down, and he had told me one day when I was out there that you should really try structural integration. Your body's like plastic; it can actually be molded and changed. And I thought, you know, I've never heard of that. I've worked out and tried to get results, but I've never known that it could be molded and you know, moved like plastic. And so that was kind of the introductory thought in my head. And then when he said, do you want to do a trade? Then we started doing the 10 series, and it was an automatic, like something, if you look at the Krista before and the Krista after, it's like a different being, like some energy awoke inside of me that it lit up my energy body for the first time. And it also pushed me in my vegan cooking, or at the time I was vegetarian, and I wanted to create something really great. And we had a neat synchronicity where a coworker gave me my first vegan cookbook, which was a World Fusion cookbook. And it was from Hawaii, and it was the restaurant that Gerald used to attend when he was going to school for structural integration in Hawaii. So it was cool that I was getting to work at the same time I got this book and got to making meals from it. And I would say the structure work, it gave me a couple inches in height, and just a more, it was like I had kind of said the same thing that Monica had said, where I wanted, I cried out that I wanted to be the perfect, you know, creation that I was meant to be. I wanted to see what that was like. And with structure work, it's like it fit. I found it, and I felt like I was finally who I was supposed to be in my own skin.
Okay. Hey, Monica, I know you and Jay have had some exposure to structure work, have you not? You and Jay have,
Yeah.
I think you guys call it Rolfing, but you've been exposed to that as well, right? So what are your thoughts about that work and what you described here?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, your body, I'm telling you, when you start looking at your body as like, it's almost like a vehicle, like how can I improve this vehicle to take me through this journey? And you start looking at yourself and those type of techniques that you can do to enhance how you move and how you, like even like sitting is different, standing, the way you carry yourself. It's all, it all flows better. It all feels better. I mean, I'm going to be 45 this year, and I know people my age who don't feel half as good as I feel. That's because we're constantly looking, okay, what can we do to improve this? Okay, so we can do those kind of things. We can do stretching. We can do, you know, I've done yoga. I love yoga. But there's so much that you can do when you start looking at yourself and saying, okay, how can I be better? You know, the structural integration. It's funny because my brother was just telling me about something. I don't know if you know anything about, but there's something you can get that hangs you upside down and that can align you. Is that what it is? Inversion boots?
Yeah, I have inversion boots, with gravity boots, but they also have these inversion tables for people that don't hook and unhook boots very well. But you know, it's all very helpful for decompressing the spine for sure, and actually just trying to figure out what your relationship is with gravity and how it affects your energy. So with practices like Tai Chi and other ones.
Yeah, and it's cool because when you do some of that work, you actually feel like openings. You feel openings, like things that were blocked, they open, and it can come in different forms, and you're like, wow, what's going on? And then you realize, wait, I was blocked. Something wasn't flowing here.
Exactly. So, Krista, I want to move along here. I know the answer to this one, and it's very controversial territory, okay? But every one of us that's on the spiritual path generally has to deal with this. Krista, you were raised Christian and from the state of Washington, and you were taught the Bible is the absolute word of God, just like I was growing up Southern Baptist. And I want you to share with everyone how this exposure to a nut job like me that's gone down this ancient alien Sumerian cuneiform tablets and turning over every stone, not believing anything like Rene Descartes, right? and how this has impacted your beliefs, coupled with what you've recently discovered with Mauro Bellino's work. I think that very much impacted you. And I think Erica has recently gotten exposed to Mauro Bellino because of me as well. He's Italian, and said Erica speaks Italian, so I've been talking to Erica about possibly helping with an upcoming interview I have with Mauro in September. So anyway, so Krista, raised hardcore Christian, you got exposed to somebody like me and somebody like Mauro Bellino. How do you land on your feet and still have all your beliefs challenged like that and still be a twin flame? How's that work?
Well, before we met, I was having thoughts like, well, if I was born in Iraq, or if I was born in India, or if I was born, in Russia, I'd probably have a different belief set than the one that I was born into. And so I think yoga and other things have kind of started opening my mind to thinking other ways. And I was kind of drawn to these metaphysical bookstores and The Secret, The Power of Now, and other things. So I wasn't necessarily at that point in my life, I didn't consider myself hardcore Christian or religious, but more spiritual. And so I was kind of open to things. And so he kind of slowly started integrating me and sharing. He started with The Flower of Life, Dronbella Melchizedek, and then he just started sharing his research before he had published. And I started becoming familiar with the Anunnaki, names like Enki, Enlil, Ninmah, and their roles. And since then, now I could probably tell part of the story because I've heard it so many times, which is good. And I can remember distinct moments that changed my beliefs, I would say. Like the Ancient Alien series, that kind of started helping me see the correlation across the different cultures. And then we were in the Ozarks, and we went to a Tom Horn conference, and maybe he doesn't agree with everything where Gerald's researches at now. At the time, it was all new to me, and it was going from, the Bible says, and somebody said that, and I'd been told, well, that's the truth. And so it was good to learn and see a different input from other researchers that, maybe it wasn't. And I was also exposed to Monsanto at that conference, and it just kind of started opening my mind more. And I remember, I'll never forget the very day that he showed me the Atrahasis, which is an ancient Sumerian text, and he had me read it. And I remember exactly where I was, the room, the feeling, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. And it was kind of my aha moment. And my next aha moment was probably Paul Hellyer disclosing, so that aliens exist and are working in the White House. And that was a really big, another aha moment. And then when Gerald published, I would say, even though I had learned all this stuff coming up to it, I kind of came crashing down in a way, and I had to deal with it and address, what is the belief, where does this all come from? And in a way I didn't know, like, who do I pray to anymore? And these different things that I had been raised on. And when he wrote a second book, The Seventh Planet Mercury Rising, and spoke more about that we are light, that we are the light, that we are that eternal energy. And more about the creator of all. It was a breath of fresh air, and it really helped me integrate these new concepts into it. And then I would say, and then meditating and starting to do the stuff he had talked about, like the Merkaba, really started opening my mind a lot more. And then I would say the final one was the Mauro interview, just hearing him, a Vatican insider, validate or confirm, that yeah, the Bible comes from these Sumerian texts, and all these different religions come from these texts. This is the beginning, and those are the lies. And once you see that, it's kind of like the nail in the coffin. It was for me anyway.
Okay, well, I know, and you know that based on what we've been exposed to, that so supposedly every Hebrew text, according to Mauro, came from the Sumerian tablets. So the thing that really caught me with that was, and I think you agree with me, is the fact that they all knew it at the high levels of the Vatican, and people like Mauro who could speak Greek and Hebrew and Latin and Italian. I mean, wow. These guys all knew this at the high level, but the thing that he said to me that really struck me the hardest was that the people in the know never told the sheeple that were forming in all the different churches that have followed on with all the different versions of the Bible that that was the case, that it had been borrowed from the Sumerian text. So now you want to know the truth? We'll go back and read where the text was borrowed from, and you might get a whole different perspective. And I do remember the day you reading the Archetypes, and I was very relieved because I knew we were actually serving in a church in Arkansas when you read that document. And I felt like we had been placed behind enemy lines doing structural integration work for the high-level members of this church, okay? And I won't name who it was, but it was quite an irony for me to be knowing what I knew and have this in my, and I hadn't written my book yet, but it was still there very much in my mind, along with who I knew Yahweh was while we were in this organization that was venerating this being that Mauro and I have both come out in public radio and said that very being, when you look into it very closely, and I'm going to get off this tirade in a minute, was the great destroyer. He was the worst genocidal murderer of all time, and still is. So when you come to that realization, it really makes you go, well, who am I praying to, and who am I venerating? This is really important. I better be careful here. And when you find the infinite representation that even the Anunnaki venerated, was they called the creator of all, it takes away all those labels of my God, your God, and all that. Oh, okay, so we're talking about an infinite creative source that is masculine, feminine, and there is no higher source than that. And that's the ones that they talked about, that I wrote about in my second book. As a matter of fact, I wrote it to answer that question. You know, if the Anunnaki messed around with our genetics, then who made them, and how does this all fit together? Okay, so those are the kind of questions I got you all three to go through. Now I want to kind of touch base with Jay. I know he had said that he was going to try to get some live Facebook questions for the three of you. And here's Jay. Awesome, buddy. And I might have...
I was just listening to what you were saying, and I wanted to jump in so bad because you sent me something I won't mention, and I actually finished reading it. It's absolutely amazing. And
why aren't you going to mention it?
Well, I mean, I didn't know it was top secret.
Well, it's not top secret. I actually leaked it a while ago, and this is my second attempt. So you're
okay. Well, Gerald sent me a screenplay about the Anunnaki, and it is absolutely fantastic. It should be a major motion, epic blockbuster motion picture. I mean, it's honestly, it's that good, and it's got all the makings of that type of movie because it has violence between the Anunnaki, you know, a duel, like a steel cage death match between two warrior gladiators.
You must be doing some speed reading, buddy. I've been watching your reading.
I read fast, man. I actually finished it this morning when I was meditating. I used that meditation app that I posted in the group that everybody's talking about. I for about 90 minutes this morning from about 6:30, I'm sorry, about 6:20 to about 7:10, or I'm sorry, 8:10, and I finished it. So, yeah. But it's really, really good. And like I said, I think it's got legs. We just have to get it to the right people. But I
appreciate
so
that.
Yeah, no problem. Let me set this thing up real quick.
Yeah, well, while we're doing that, I want to do a call out to Rex at the Leak Project. Rex has been a really great friend, and the fact that he helped inspire Krista to do her very first vegan show live with him, awesome. Without knowing what the questions were, that was a new gate you went through, honey, and I'm glad you're starting to share that with people. So, and I want to really give kudos to Rex for helping make that happen. So.
Rex is an awesome dude for sure, man.
And as far as the screenplay goes, I've been working on this for a while. I think I'm within a week of finishing it. And I want to give a call out to one of the other Decoders of Truth members, who's Matt LaCroix, who's actually offered his time to help me with that project. To take it across the goal line, and he's a very creative writer, and some of his inputs are absolutely fantastic. So you're going to see some of his influence on the screenplay as well. Even though it was 2/3 of the way done before I brought him in, but he's a real asset to this project, and I wanted to give him a call out as well.
Yeah, Matt's awesome dude too.
So, Matt, I'm going to give Krista one last opportunity. I didn't let her talk about her path and how it was changed when it came together with our path as a twin flame, like I did with the other two girls. So
Well, I would say kind of cheesy, but ever since I was a little girl, I always dreamed of finding that one, your soulmate, that one person. And I've been accused in the past of having one foot out the door in past relations. And in a way, I think I did, because I knew in my heart that it wasn't him. It wasn't the one I was seeking. And even before Gerald and I met, we were neighbors. And I remember one time defending his honor before I even really knew him that well. And I thought, that's weird. and I just, I was drawn to him, and he's got a really nice, wonderful masculine energy, and so I fell in love with that, and once our energies connected, our whole lives changed, and for the better. And I would say, if you look at my life before and you look at my life after, we've changed, a dramatic change. It's led to both of us writing our books, and our paths are very interconnected. And like, I wrote my book, and then he was inspired to write his, and he pushes me to be a better person, and has called me his blossoming lotus, and it truly has helped me blossom more into the woman that I desired to be, and I wouldn't even be here tonight if it weren't for him, so I'm very thankful.
I appreciate that, honey. And you've heard me talk about twin flame energy before. How would you put it in your words, and what role do you think structural integration could play with that?
I would say I wasn't very in tune with my body before structural integration, and afterwards I was a lot more in tune with myself, and just feeling our energies come together. I'll never forget, we were out in the desert camping. He used to take me there, and we'd overcome fears, anyways, we had one moment where it felt like we married each other in our spirit, even before we wed, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I actually will never forget that moment out in the California desert where we used to go, and there was a significant Kwame Indian presence at this spot. So the Native American energy where we used to go camping was very strong. It kind of like reminded me of growing up in the Ozarks, where we had lots of limestone caves and Native American artifacts all over the place. And I was raised like a wild Indian, so I really connected with that.
When you guys spoke about how you were raised, I was actually raised in a Catholic home, and I remember going to church. Like, my mom was because my mom was a Mexican mom who, we're Catholic, and you're raised Catholic, and we got to go to church, and you got to have all the sacraments, and you got to make your first, like, everything was about going to church every Sunday, and that was all it was about. And I remember going to church. I remember sitting there going, like, why does everyone keep doing the same thing? Stand up, sit down, kneel, and they say the same prayers, and then we're listening to this priest lecture us about how horrible decisions we're making. And I remember thinking as a kid, like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to what's out there. And then when I was married to my first husband, like, he became born again, and then it was like all of this condemnation and judgment, and this is what you have to do, and this is the way of, I see Jesus in you, and you got to be like this. And I remember thinking, like, what is this? Like, this is like, it's so hard, like, to just be with God or Creator, whatever it is. Why does it have to be so hard? And then that's when I started, like, searching for more and searching outside of religion, because religion always seemed so like you had to do it this way, and things were this way, and people were always telling you about anything and everything, and you could never make your own decision, and you could never even trust who you were because you had to follow what everybody else said. And since I've shifted and evolved more into, I guess you could say, spirituality and having a relationship with the Creator, the source, it's honestly the feeling and who I am is so, like, free. I feel like I can be and fully express myself. It's just an awesome, amazing dynamic. So that's it.
Yeah. Well, I actually spent many years in the Catholic Church. I wanted to ask you, Monica, what part of Mexico do you have family here connection with? Where they hail from?
So my mom was from Culiacan, Sinaloa. That's where my mom was raised. Yeah, Sinaloa. And so that's where she was raised, that I visited once. And my mom used to always say, no, I never go back. No. There's a reason why I left.
Well, one of these days would remind me to tell you a wild story about Culiacan.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Well, you know that's the cartel capital.
Yes,
For the
I
Sinaloa
heard.
cartel. By the way, it's in the news right now. The Sinaloa cartel down near Puerto Vallarta.
Hmm.
The son of Chapo Guzman was just abducted along with 9 other members of his, I don't know, cartel.
Hmm.
You know, his dad's in prison, has been there since January. So we know about these things because we're in Mexico, okay? But
Yeah.
that kind of stuff used to happen over in other parts of Mexico, like Veracruz. But now all of a sudden, the police and the federales are moving in large forces into Puerto Vallarta right now because they're concerned about a cartel war. So
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. She tells us a story. I mean, she passed away 3 years ago, and she was telling us the story of why she moved. She said that back then, you know, if somebody came to your parents and said, "I want to marry your daughter," like you were obligated to go with that person. And there was a man that was attempting to basically kidnap her and marry her, and she was 13 or 14 at the time, so she escaped, so she didn't have to marry that man. So it's a lot different here than there than it is in the States. So.
now we allow the gals to ask each other any one last question for each other.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Erica, so when you like practice your meditation, like how do you know what meditation, like do you trust? Do you like what is it like? Do you have certain days that you like to do certain things? Where do you meditate? Do you have a preference? How does that work for you so you feel more aligned and more connected?
Sure. So going back to astrology, I was raised with a pretty heavy astrological influence from friends of my family and stuff. So I don't know what your guys' kind of, background knowledge is in astrology, but I structure my meditations around the days of the week, basically. So each day is ruled by a different planet. So Monday is ruled by the moon, Tuesday is ruled by Mars, Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. And so depending on the day that I'm meditating, which is sometimes it's every day, sometimes it's not, I go back and forth. I try to harness the power of that day's planetary influence. So for example, today's Wednesday, it's Mercury Day. My sun sign is also ruled by Mercury. So there's a lot of opportunity for working on things like communication, intellectual power, intelligence, connection, that kind of thing. And so if I were to do a meditation today, I would try to sort of focus on that, if that makes sense. And then, and go by days. So tomorrow, Thursday, ruled by Jupiter, good for enthusiasm, expansion, opportunity, kind of like forward motion, goal setting, that kind of thing.
So what would that look like? Like, let's say today's, you said Wednesday's communication. So in a meditative moment, what would that look like in focusing on communication? Would your meditation and your thought be on expressing yourself in a manner that you could fully be heard and listen? Would it be something like that? Like, what would that look like?
Yeah, so it depends on how I'm feeling. It depends on the week or whatever I'm going through at that point in time. There's mudras that you can take. A mudra is just it's a position with hands and fingers. Mm-hmm. Each fingertip is said to represent a different planet, for example. So you can do thumb and ring finger connected, which is supposed to harness Mercury's power. Mm-hmm. If you connect the pads of the fingers, it's more of a passive energy. But if you take the thumb and you press it into the nail of the finger, it's considered more of a sort of like an activating, energizing type activation, I guess. But, some days it might look like me asking for more confidence in expressing myself, but then some days it might look something more like being open to other people. There's chakra work that I do too. So, the fifth chakra, the throat chakra, is associated with Mercury. So, and it's, it's the center of sort of communication. So there's poses and sort of positions that you can hold to either open up the throat or compress the thyroid, depending on what you're needing, what you're feeling. Like, I mean, there's such a thing as too much communication sometimes. So it's about balancing, I guess. Mm-hmm. So whether I need more or less, or I feel like I want to give somebody else more or that kind of thing. So I have to read whatever I'm going through, if that makes sense.
Do you start your day with meditation, or do you is it just you wake up And then if you feel like it, you'll do it, or you go through the day. And if you feel like it, how does that typically look like for you?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I start my day with meditation. I don't always, sometimes, but sometimes I sleep in. So
sometimes you cuddle.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cuddle days. I mean, but you need those, you know?
Yeah.
You really do. I honestly don't even remember the last time I slept in, but we kind of don't say that. Stop saying that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I take meditation as I'm pretty spontaneous with it. So I work for myself and I teach classes in studios, which means my schedule is weird, but it's flexible. So I can do something like if I'm freaking out or if I'm stressed out or if I'm low energy, I can either like go into an empty room or like pull over on the side of the road or do something, take 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes and just block out everything else and meditate. And that's
awesome.
Honestly, it's better than a nap.
Yes, it is.
Brings everything back home, you know. So I'm lucky enough, like I can do that with my day to day, the way that my life is day to day. I can do that when I need to. So it's not as structured as, I mean, I don't have a time of day every day where I meditate. I just
that's cool. Yeah. I have a question for Krista and Gerald, if you guys don't mind. I would love to know this as a couple. Like, is there a meditation or is there something that you do? Maybe it's, a meditation, or maybe it's a sitting, maybe like something that you do that helps you to feel more connected with one another. Or like if you feel like you're out of alignment with one another or something's not working well, like what is it that you do? It could be communication. It could be whatever, something that you do to help strengthen that when you feel a little off with one another, if that ever happens.
Chris, I'm going to let you do that one first. Go ahead.
Well, I think we both enjoy meditation. So sometimes we'll do the Merkaba meditation together. And in general, that's protecting your own energy field. So if maybe I'm off and he's not, we're pretty lucky in that if I'm down, then he's up. Or if I'm up, then he's down. So the other person can kind of help bring the other person back to that level field where we were at. And one meditation we enjoy doing together is just sitting out on a bench and playing with our sit bones and breathing and just feeling the energy and just taking in nature. Or we'll take a meditative walk together and sometimes, you know, if I'm off, a lot of times I'm kind of emotional or going through something, then I have a Meditation Secrets for Women book that I just love, and she's like, she just speaks to my soul, and same with Women or Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It helps you see that other women feel these things too, and that you're not alone on this path, and because we feel different things that our husbands do sometimes, and so sometimes I have to go alone and process and then get back, and I'll have just cried or processed all these emotions and probably a mess on my own in my own little corner, but then I'll come back and he'll just say, "Wow, you look so bright and beautiful," and I'll just say, "Oh, thank you." We each have our own practices, I think. But Gerald's pretty even keeled, and he's kind of more of an engineering mindset, and I wouldn't say he's ruled as much by his emotions.
Right. Very cool. What about you, Gerald? What would you like? What kind of tip could you give us from a men's perspective?
First of all, as a man, if you've read the John Gray book, which is Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, you realize that you just have to say, "You're right, honey," at least 7 times a day. No, I'm kidding.
No, you just nod your head.
So how do we meld our energies? Well, first of all, it was so easy because we were on a very similar spiritual path, and neither one of us were really addicted to a doctrine of dogma or beliefs, and we kind of see. Oh, I have to tell you one. This was profound. I remember us having this discussion. We said that when we're together because it's more fun sharing our lives with someone on the same frequency than doing it by yourself. Right. So sharing was really important to us. So when we were together, we felt like you could share anything and there was no judgment. The limitation was when you started advising the other one, you've gone too far. And we made that deal with each other.
That's awesome.
From day one. The other thing, do you remember the other deal we made, honey? Whatever verbal agreement we
It was
made?
also to always be kind to one another. Like there's not a reason to not be kind or loving to the other person. And then I think the other one was to gain your satisfaction from your mate. In other words, not from exterior material like pornography or other things.
Yeah.
It's being true
Right.
to your mate.
I agree. Gerald, if I can add,
I want to
Go ahead.
comment on that. I've only mentioned this one time before. I told my boys when I finally discovered this life lesson, honey, I think, yeah, real men don't do porn. They just don't. Virtual relationships are a sham. They don't lead anywhere.
right.
And whenever you're having one of those or doing that when you're with somebody else, imagine the energy that you're not giving that person because you're selfishly doing it for yourself. And I don't believe in masturbation either, just so you know. I don't believe in that at all. Because when we're brought together, we're there to serve each other's needs. And when you do that, there is no yearning for anything else. There are no thoughts about anyone else necessary in my mind. And that, to me, that's what a real relationship is. So,
What if you're masturbating with her or him?
I don't know. I think anything is possible between two couples that are.
It was a joke.
Yeah, if two couples are mutually committed to each other, I think anything that they do together that doesn't take their energy lower.
Right.
Right.
So that's where I draw the line. If you're doing something that's dishonoring, degrading, treating them in a way that doesn't elevate them, it's not right.
Yes, I
Not
agree.
right. So
I wanted to share something real quick just about Monica, like, what Krista just struck very resonated with me about, like, at the very beginning and the little rules that you guys made with each other. But when I first met Monica, I was not, Gerald, I shared my story with you in our episode 3, but I was not anything like the man that I am now. And she allowed me to get to this point, and there was no judgment from her at all with me, and she was way more spiritually evolved and way more empowered than I am, or I was, and I still believe she is, but she allowed me to take my time to get to this point. And believe me, it was not easy for her because I did judge her and I did call her the woo-woo queen. And there were so many things that I did looking back that were just pathetic. And so, I'm very blessed and very lucky to have a woman that really allowed me. She saw through the veneer, as she would say, and she allowed me to get to this point. So it's amazing that I'm blessed to have her.
Well, there's something I want to say about that, Jay, is no matter where you find yourself up along your spiritual path, and what we've noticed about you is when you discover through self-reflection that there's something not as optimal as you want to make it, right? You're an optimizer. Then you deal with it. You deal with it. You don't go into denial. You don't put your ego out and say, no, you're full of crap. You actually analyze it and you fix it. And I was telling Krista today, we were having this discussion, that when you do what Jay's doing and dealing with your spiritual garbage right up front, mano a mano, just not avoiding it and growing from it, guess what? Your spiritual lessons start coming really quickly and you evolve very, very much quicker than if you were in resistance.